Hey, hey, welcome to Live with Lynn. So if you're here, say hi. If you're watching the replay, be sure to type replay so I know you were here. I'm Lynn Huber, and I appreciate you being here today. So today we're going to talk about how pressure affects people differently. So we've all been there, right? The deadline is looming, and we've barely begun to work. And then, the fast pace of life and the never-ending pressure to meet deadlines is the leading cause of stress-related conditions. The workplace has also become a high pressure environment with employers demanding more from their workers. Some jobs, just by the nature of them, are high pressure jobs. I mean, for instance, if you're working in an emergency room, you're dealing with the pressure of emergency after emergency after emergency, your whole shift, right? I mean, I can't even imagine the pressure in the ICU units and the emergency rooms right now, with them being overrun with COVID-19 and with patients just coding one after another. I mean, I don't know, you see it on the news, and these doctors are having to deal with pronouncing deaths one after another after another. I just can't even imagine that kind of pressure, right? Hi, Karen, good to see you. Or maybe you're building a small business, or maybe you're even building an Avon business like me, right? Or other direct sales business. And the pressure is on you to get sales, because obviously nobody makes any money until something is sold, right? Well, that's true in any business, though. I mean, not just in sales. If you're in manufacturing, you're under pressure to get the products made in time for the demand, right? I mean, those shelves need to be full so that the products can ship out when they're ordered. I was a buyer for most of my life. Most of my adult life, I was a buyer for different things, but that's a high pressure job. My job was not only to buy thousands of products at the best price, but also to magically get them to the warehouse just in time. Just in time. Have you ever heard that? Meaning that that right about the time the shelf becomes empty. So when you're a buyer, you can't have too many of each product on the shelf, and you can't have the shelf be empty. Those are all big no-nos, and you're graded on that, So I'd be ordering a truckload of lots of different products that come in one truck, and ideally every item on that truck would get there just in time. Trust me, that's not even possible. We did our best, but that was stress for sure. And then even worse, if the truck was late, it didn't get there, whatever. I mean, it's a stressful job. And the pandemic that we're dealing with right now, and having to shelter at home, and so many people losing their jobs, none of that makes things any easier these days. So we are all dealing with pressure. Everybody has pressure, right? And faced with so much pressure, you have to find ways to cope with it, because the pressure is all around us, and we're dealing with it all the time. And so the key is in how we respond to it. Some of us thrive on pressure, some not so much. I actually thrive on pressure most of the time. Like my buying job, I loved it. I actually loved it. But but some people don't do well under pressure. And so, we're all different, right? But I think we all recognize that feeling in the pit of our stomach when we settle down to work under intense pressure, especially if that pressure is caused because we procrastinated and now we're up against a deadline, right? So, but does that pressure have to lead to stress? Pressure and stress aren't necessarily the same thing. And what does stress actually have to do with our motivation and our focus? So, we know that if stress is getting to us, then we need to find ways to manage it. Because we know for a fact that stress from psychological pressure affects our bodies. Hi, Sarah, good to see you. So if we're dealing with stress and it's affecting us on a psychological level, and we're not dealing with it very well, it can affect our bodies, right? It can lead to things like high blood pressure, anxiety, and a host of other symptoms. It also can make it really hard to concentrate on the task at hand. And so if you're feeling pressure at work and it's leading to stress, then you probably aren't at your most effective. You might be missing deadlines or making mistakes, or maybe you've even worried yourself sick and had to take a sick day or personal day off. All of these things can be caused by stress from psychological pressure. So the pressure itself is obviously it is stress. It's a form of stress by itself. But when you internalize it and it becomes psychological, that's when it really starts causing problems. So, but with good coping skills, pressure doesn't always have to lead to that stress, that actual stress that can hurt you. It can positively affect your motivation too. So when you're feeling stressed, you should try to practice positive thinking, self-distraction, or any of the other techniques that you can use to beat stress and help your focus. One way you can do that is with visualization. So you can relax your mind. You can find a place to sit, like in your favorite spot in the park, or do an activity that relaxes you, such as listening to soft music, and just work to relax your mind. Right? And maybe if you're in a really high stress job, you can do that on your lunch break, or take a break and go outside and do that if possible, right? And over time, you're going to find that it's gradually going to become easier for you to relax and to be able to visualize yourself breezing through life without being affected by the pressure. But motivation under pressure is an excellent skill to have. But it takes practice to get better at it, just like anything else, right? So the most important thing you can do is learn to cope. Because with positive coping mechanisms, we see that the stress can melt away, and in its place, there's a host of positive benefits of working under pressure. So when you've mastered your stress levels and you learn to perform under pressure, you might notice a few things. You'll keep a cooler head in difficult situations. You'll think more clearly when others around you are flailing wildly at the thought of some terrible outcome, because you will be better at it. You've learned to manage it. You learn to cope, right? You'll notice that your leadership skills improve and that people turn to you in a crisis. And you might also see that you perform better under pressure because the positive coping mechanisms help you to perform better. And so people who perform under pressure are in huge demand in any industry. If you're in your own home business like Avon or any other direct sales business, you're going to perform better, and you might even see yourself start to climb up the leaderboards. You might start to see recognition. You might, because you're able to perform under stress. You're able to reach for those sales, to work towards it, to get, to go after them, right? But also, whether you're at the office or behind a counter, performance under stress will lead to promotions and positive feedback, even in your job. If you have a job, every employer on earth wants to find someone who can keep a cool head under pressure. So with a little bit of practice and some positive habits, that someone could easily be you. You seriously could. You could do this. The key is learn how to manage the pressure so that you can cope with it, so that you can work through the pressure and allow it to motivate you rather than stress you out. You got this. That could be you. You could be on the leaderboards with your direct sales company. You could be the top. You could be promoted in your company. All of that could be yours if you can learn how to do this. So, hey, hi, Anitra. So, hey, now I'd love to hear from you. Are you good at dealing with pressure? What kinds of things help you when you're feeling under pressure? Please get down in the comments and share your thoughts with us. I would love to hear your stories. And thank you, Karen, Sarah, and Anitra, for being live with me today, and anyone else who might be live who just didn't comment, and anyone who's watching the replay. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.